with the goal of inclusivity in digital learning, it's important to remember that inequalities existed in our countries and communities prior to this crisis, and that there is no easy solution, no silver bullet to address it when education actually goes digital. And unless a country is as wired as South Korea, most likely inequality will be exacerbated. And unfortunately, we suspect that the best we can do is to work just to minimize the growth of inequality in our countries. And my first advice is to talk to colleagues in ministries of education in the region. Learn from them and share with education colleagues in Latin America how they're maximizing inclusivity. There are a number of initiatives under study and or underway in countries across the Americas, and we'll highlight some here in this interview. Others are cited in a World Bank log titled How Countries Across Latin America Use Technology During COVID-19 Driven School Closures. Having said this, there are steps that educators can take to maximize inclusivity. Let me mention just a few that are being utilized around the world. Based on what other countries are doing and have done in prior crises, the first step is to assess what digital tools are available to the most number of teachers and students. These could include computers and tablets, of course, but more importantly, mobile phones with WhatsApp, texting, voice-to-text, etc., feature phones, television, and radio, and then identify the lowest possible technologies that can have close to universal application. Needless to say, a combination of different technologies with appropriate coordination will probably be the best mix and match to reach the highest number of young people. The World Bank has identified a number of possible techniques being used in different countries in a paper titled How Countries Are Using EdTech to Support Remote Learning During the COVID-19 Pandemic. Depending on your country, a cell phone may be the technology most available to all students and teachers. Using WhatsApp, teachers can send homework assignments, check in with those who are not participating, and utilize the audio and video features to connect on a more personal level with students. And in today's wired societies, it's easy to forget the teaching and learning potential of radio and television, and a number of countries are airing content for multiple grade levels and curricular subject areas. For example, in Sierra Leone, the Ministry of Gender and Children's Affairs, working with Plan International, is distributing over 23,000 radios to girls to support the school radio teaching program during the extended school closure as an initiative to promote gender inclusion. And based on interviews with teachers globally, educators are the ones experiencing and bearing the brunt of difficulties involved in school closings and expectations to move teaching and learning to digital technologies and platforms. And to be frank, they feel totally unprepared to do this and report that their work hours each day have increased by 100% as a result of the attempts to teach with digital tools. And in most countries, school closings came quickly with little advance notice and no professional development on how it would work for teachers. Almost every teacher reported that they were given little or no training or preparation in how to move teaching and learning online. Although some teachers had earlier engaged in blended activities as part of their classrooms, the online portion has tended to be supplemental and not to actually deliver lessons based on curriculum requirements. Further, many teachers have had no experience with the technologies their ministries or departments of education have suggested as tools for engaging learners digitally. So they've had to learn those technologies first. To be frank, if teachers were to have several weeks available for training and planning without having to teach at the same time, one tool that could be used would be online professional development courses for teachers to explore different technologies, time management strategies, and student engagement. So if the ministries of education were to say, there's now 2 weeks, for the next 2 weeks there will be no school, and it'll be reserved for teacher training. And for example, following the tragedy of 9/11 in 2001, we in New York City found that teachers were not prepared to deal with the trauma caused by it that students brought into the classroom with them. And to address this, my organization, IEARN, the International Education Resource Network, worked with the School of Social Work at Columbia University to put together an online professional development course on how to recognize and then handle trauma that was evident among students after 9/11. Teachers in the U.S. also have not had any advanced preparation prior to school closings, which have come on a state-by-state basis, and totally there has been no national program to close schools on a on the same basis and prepare teachers. And in spite of near universal access to technology and connectivity, teachers report that only about 40% of students in public schools are accessing the online lessons. And one researcher told us that 82% of U.S. students reported doing actually nothing online after teachers put lessons on. Now, Australia is an exception. The government recognized the seriousness of the virus and took advantage of a 3-week gap between 2 academic years in March of 2020 to provide teachers with training, technology, and materials on how to move teaching and learning out of the classroom and online. Further, students had advance notice also as well to take technology home with them in the same period to prepare for online learning. Nonetheless, many students, including Aboriginal families living in isolated rural living situations, often lack internet access. So some communities have arranged for vans with internet connectivity to pass by homes without connection at specific times, using a 1990s technology called Store and Forward. This technology actually lessened inequality in the 1990s. In South Africa, for example, postal vehicles and delivery trucks that traveled the same route every day were outfitted with internet connectivity, and students could upload and download messages and files when the vehicles were near their homes. Store and Forward technologies made this possible. And teachers have told us that teachers should focus on project work about real-life problems and discuss issues that are relevant in the community, and not simply replicate a lesson from a classroom. And this gives students a time to learn by doing and on their own time with family members. Ultimately, we need to listen to teachers about what works and give them the opportunity to interact with colleagues to assemble best practices for their particular situation. And above all, we need to work with teachers where they are and not where we would like or hope them to be. These are just a few suggestions on how learning can be as inclusive as possible in a world disrupted by school closings caused by the COVID-19 virus crisis. And we're very fortunate to have Adriana Vileda here to share her perspectives on what is happening in Latin America. I'd like to really thank the OAS, Organization of American States, and the Committee on Education for giving us this opportunity to share these thoughts with you. Thank you.